Good afternoon, Trump family. Welcome to Open Source News. Have a great Thursday, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news. And looks like we had a huge win in New Hampshire last night. I know not a whole lot of people were talking about it. But huge wins from Trump-backed candidate to New Hampshire, and the Democrats and the Republican Party are fuming, because it's not the handpicked rhinos who want it, who the Republican Party wanted to run. And of course, the Democrats' party wanted to have in Congress because they'd like working with each other. However, we had a huge win with some Make America First candidates in New Hampshire again. They fear this. People in the unit party fear people that are making America great coming into Congress because they are threatening to upset the gravy train that they have, and it needs to be upset. The boat needs to be rocked even harder in Congress. And so this new band of individuals coming into Congress this coming year is going to be huge momentum shift. And it's going to be huge moment where we see Republicans actually fight and actually take the fight back to Democrats and the communists within this country. So let's go and take a look what we have here. This from the Daily Mail says Trump backing Brigadier General beats moderate GOP candidate in New Hampshire Senate primary in key battle before midterms, while former Trump staffer aged just 25 wins her House battle. Don Bullock, a staunch supporter of Trump, won his Tuesday primary after the state Senate President Chuck Norris conceded. Bolduc will take on Democrat incumbent Senator Maggie Hassan in November's election, hoping to be the New Hampshire senator. Meanwhile, Carolyn Leavitt, 25, won her GOP primary against fellow former Trump administrator staffer in New Hampshire 1st Congressional District. She will take on incumbent Representative Chris Pappas in one of the most vulnerable districts, and for Democrats into 2022 election. Huge wins that we have going on right now across the country. And now we got big wins that we had in Wyoming. We had big wins, Wisconsin, Michigan, we have some big wins. Of course, in Florida, and other parts of the country as we continue to see the map starting to take shape. And we're starting to see more Trump-backed America First type candidates on the ballot as we move forward to November. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this runs out. Throughout the November elections, we know Democrats are trying their ever darkness to ensure that they win upcoming. We see the shenanigans they pulled up in Alaska, where 60% of the voters in Alaska voted for a Republican, but somehow a Democrat won because of the ranked choice voting system. That is a complete joke of what that was put in place in Alaska allowed a Democrat who has never won a seat and 50 years in that state to win an election after 60% of Republicans voted, or 60% of voters voted for a Republican to win out there. It was taken from them right other than nose because of this stuff. So things like that across the country. It's going to be stuff for us to continue to look at, and hopefully to be able to take out of this the certain states where they're trying to find wiggle room in order to be able to win these elections. So it's going to be important for you guys out there. Continue to stay involved in your local politics. Stay involved at the local level, get involved with the election process, be visible. This is The Hill. An article 24 hours ago: DOJ sought Mar-a-Lago footage from days before Trump turned over documents to the National Archives. The Justice Department sought security footage at Mar-a-Lago from as far back as the week before President Trump's team turned over an initial batch of documents to the National Archives. The details surfaced as a federal magistrate judge agreed to a Justice Department request to unseal a slightly less redacted version of the affidavit used to gain a warrant to search Trump's Florida home, the bulk of the documents. And it's unclear to what extent Trump's team complied. So, they want the security footage. They want it badly. DOJ officials, this is Yahoo News. That was The Hill. DOJ officials were alarmed by security footage of the Mar-a-Lago room where classified info was being stored. Why would they? This is at Yahoo. Why would they be alarmed? That was a Business Insider article. By the way, why would they be alarmed? I mean, you might say, well, it's actually a good thing that there is closed-circuit television running at all times now. You look in independent Trump and family watched FBI Mar-a-Lago search on security cameras from New York, as attorney reveals. They visited Trump in June, then they raided Mar-a-Lago in August. And he gave that 15 boxes back in February. Now, each time any government official, whether it was the DOJ or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, stepped foot in Mar-a-Lago, They were being recorded on video. They want the security footage very badly. And the reason they want the security footage is that it's detrimental to the DOJ Merrick Garland. The administration of mashed potato brains to be on videotape. Number 1. Bureau agents could have whether Rand Paul is right, for example, planted documents or evidence. But I mean, the big issue is, did they follow protocol? Did they were they abiding by protocol when it came to searching President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence? That's a big issue. And so it's not often that the Bureau or any government official is on videotape. But the same thing with Trump. Number 1, he's a billionaire. So ordinarily, the government, if they want to go after somebody, could bankrupt that person generally. Generally, it's very difficult to go up against any government, the US government, obviously, because you need an unlimited amount of money. With Trump, he has basically an unlimited amount of money. So they haven't indicted him after endless investigations. He hasn't committed a crime. Had he committed a crime, he would have been indicted 6 years ago. Okay. The Mueller probe found nothing. The dossier Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton, the whole thing was absolutely fabricated. And then they say, well, it wasn't a hoax. It really wasn't like, well, then why didn't they indict him on what they obsessed over for 3-4 years? They're still talking about how the Kremlin interfered in 2016. Nobody knows how not one journalist can talk about a Facebook ad it can I would love for somebody in Mother Jones to describe a specific Facebook ad, or The Nation or whatever, Daily Beast or War, The Washington Post, whatever, describe a specific Facebook ad that swung 2016. I mean, it was a concerted effort we learned by the Kremlin to hack the DNC. Then answer also why the DNC didn't give it a computer servers to James Comey, and Comey even asked for them. He said, hey, I'm gonna have them. And they said, nah, you can't have them. But you better trust us. We hired a firm and they'll give you the information. Vice. Other publications have stated, yeah, the DNC never gave their computer service. But anyway, Trump, the thing with Trump and the security footage is that the issue of doubt is now omnipresent. Trump is able to level suspicion, doubt, distrust the Democratic Party. That's really why they're investigating him. It's not about classified documents. They knew he had classified documents. He was the former president. The National Archives knew we had classified documents since February of this year. They already retrieved 15 boxes. 15 boxes in February. And then they got an additional in August when they raided his residence in Mar-a-Lago. They got an additional 16 or so boxes of documents. The initial batch of documents that he willingly gave were classified. If he was breaking the law, they would have already indicted him. They knew he had classified documents. The problem is that he's a former president. He had the power to declassify. They're not certain if he had declassified all the documents. They don't know what to do. They're not sure about setting a precedent just yet. They'll almost certainly indict Trump in 2023. When mashed potato brains Joe gets impeached, but he had already given 15 boxes. The National Archives, the Department of Justice in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, already knew we had classified documents. When they raided Mar-a-Lago, they had known this already. So it'd be very difficult, even if they indicted Trump, to prove that it was damaging to national security. When they hit orbit, and they were in June, they gave him a thank you note and they said, go ahead. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, according to the Wall Street Journal, gave Trump a thank you note and said, look, your storage facility just put another padlock or another lock on there. Okay. They had already known that he was storing boxes as a former president. And he was negotiating with this team of attorneys with the National Archives in the Department of Justice. Problem was the economy is tanking. Inflation is through the roof, food prices, rent, they say, well, headline inflation went down by 0.1%, something like that, 0.2. But actually, food, energy and rent went up. And inflation is not being addressed by interest rates that are going way up. And that's going to harm. That interest rates going up, the alleged cure to the inflation that Powell and Biden and all these people ignored in 2021. That is, you don't raise interest rates in a recession. I mean, you have to be a complete imbecile to do that. And that's the Democratic Party. You don't raise interest rates in a recession. And that make it difficult for oil and gas companies to operate, which is what Mashed Potato Brings did when he first got into the Oval Office, then he reversed course, and now he's being sued by environmental groups, but all of this, the obsession with Trump going into 3 years into Biden's presidency. This is we're going into his third year, within a couple of months. Okay. They're obsessing over Trump because they have accomplished nothing, aside from inflation, real wages going down 4.4%, terrible foreign policy, geopolitical nightmare in Europe. And they say, well, it's not our fault. You could have prevented that somehow. You could have at least tried for a peace treaty or negotiated deal or settlement or something. But there are the sacred cows. You knew. Soldiers stationed that at the border for what months? You could have at least tried. Whether you tried, if you matcom tried, other European leaders tried, why didn't the Mashed Potato Brings Joe? So he didn't want to, because obviously there's a political element here. It's the invasion. It's the geopolitics nightmare in Europe. That's why we have problems. That's why our economy is tanking. No, I was talking about a stock market crash and economic decline and recession in September and October of 2021. 1,300 points down yesterday, and it's just gonna get much, much worse. You have inflation. When you have inflation at 8 to 9%, very likely, it's a lot higher. Okay. But when you have inflation of 8 to 9%, in a contracting economy with interest rates going up, okay, and food prices in rent going up, Democrats are in a world of hurt in terms of the midterms. The House is definitely going Republican. The Senate is almost certainly going Republican. And then they're going to investigate Joe and Hunter and Hillary and everybody on the Democratic side, and they're going to investigate with the same zeal and enthusiasm and passion and energy as Democrats did with Trump. The difference being they have crimes like Hunter's emails, clear violations of law, graft bribery, pay-to-play schemes, obvious quid pro quo. I mean, you have to read the New York Post and Daily Mail. Problem is that morally superior Democrats never read anything detrimental to them. They don't even know that in Nevada, a Democrat is accused of ending life of a journalist. So anyway, it's the chaos and mayhem is coming from the Democratic Party side of the divide. Not you hear like a Trump or Obama, this mug or bone marrow running the show extreme. It's like no, find one Trump Republican that ended the life of a journalist, because we can find one Democrat that did that. Okay. You can also find a Democrat Arizona state senator that did despicable things, just as despicable as what happened in Nevada. They want his security footage, because they know very likely it's incriminating, or they know that it could prevent a conviction. It's very difficult to prove that he's damaging national security, when the security footage showed the Federal Bureau of Investigation going into Mar-a-Lago in June and August, and still hasn't been indicted. The reason he hasn't been indicted is that he didn't commit a crime. The reason Hunter and Madam Secretary haven't been indicted is that they did commit crimes, but we're talking about Democrats. Okay. You can't have top secret I want to Hillary Trump 2024, but you can't have top secret intelligence on private servers. Okay. I'm gonna speak very slowly now for morally superior, highly educated, liberal Democrats. Boxes at Mar-a-Lago are not nearly in the same league stratosphere as private service for 4 years shaping and classified data outside the United States government. And then a week before Comey, with the cover-up, said, oh, gosh, I have the goods on you. Oh, by the way, there's classified data on Huma Aberdeen's laptop. There was more classified data probably floating around President Obama's administration than within the United States government. But if you have private servers siphoning and transferring, we don't know how that happened. Classified data onto private secret networks. It's infinitely worse than a former president who could declassify documents with boxes for a library or hiding Durham probe special counsel documents. That is an issue, or that's an issue that could be incriminating for the government, but also possible legal issue for President Trump. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you're up for it, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching.